by the entrepreneurs, self-employed, and small business community on Google+. And today we've got a really exciting topic, one that I'm excited about and I'd like to learn more about. We're going to be talking about business coaching, advising, and mentoring. If you have RSVP'd to this event, we're having trouble getting the invitations out. I'm really sorry. We did get lucky because I sent a invitation circle out first of coaches. So we got them. We're going to try again. So if you could bear with us, we're going to get through the introductions here and then talk a bit, and I'm going to try again. So you can join us on chat. Dawn will be keeping a little bit of track of that. But we are trying to get the invitations out. I think the problem's on Google's end. I'm sorry. So I'm not even sure I'm going to know what questions they ask, but I'll probably think of some as we go along. So why don't I start with introductions, and on my end I'm going to go from left to right. I don't know if you see it the same way. So I'm going to start with Don Lamond, who is a life coach in Washington, D.C. Welcome, Don. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Don, can you hear us? Don, we can't hear you. Are you muted? Okay, you're muted. Check your mute.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we got you back. Go ahead. No, Dawn, we're not hearing you, so we're going to go on. Can anyone see that? I can't see what you held up. Can people hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Heather, we're not getting your video. Maybe you have it turned off, but could you give us a brief introduction? We'll get back to Dawn in a minute.
Yeah, I think I'm having problems with my connection tonight. It wouldn't start the video. Just to say, I'm a coach, a business coach. I train coaching as well. I certified in the US and in the UK, and I'm head of social media for the institute, the International Institute.
The International Institute of what?
Coaching.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, in fact, they've actually changed the coaching and mentoring this week. They've just relaunched.
Wow, well, I'm sure we're going to want to know more about that as the hangout progresses. Hi, Jessica. Welcome again.
How's it going? Thank you. I'm excited to be here, and I'm in the same boat you are. While I do provide coaching to a degree, that's not really what I do, and I am actually in the place of considering finding a coach. So I'm here to help contribute to conversation and maybe come up with some questions as well that what we need to think about when considering a coach. And
outstanding. And as we talked in the last hangout, Jessica is a digital strategy specialist, and I believe there's a whole range. I think everybody agrees with this. There's a whole range of different kinds of coaches with different emphasis, and it's hard to know who's a coach and who's not sometimes. But we'll go into that a bit. Kenneth Maness, is I've known him for a long time. He's online, and he specializes in micro-enterprise development, which is fascinating to me, and I think is critically important. But why don't you introduce yourself, Kenneth?
Sure. Before we get started, are we supposed to be speaking in pirate language today, since it is international? It's International Pirate Day, so are we supposed to have an
absolutely R, matey.
Oh, yes, every one of my sentences is an R.
Pirate part.
Thanks, Rob. You can find me online, obviously, and I'm known as the micro-entrepreneur specialist, and I have been business coaching since 2005, and it actually started for me in 1999 when I did the very thing that I asked most people to do, and that was raised my hand and asked for help. I was a struggling entrepreneur. I was looking for answers, and the problem I had was I was talking to people that were actually in the same boat that I was, and what I needed was someone to help me guide and get my boat not only launched, but across the seas, so to speak. So in 1999, I raised my hand and hired a business coach, and was able to create some businesses, had some successes and failures, and then one of my businesses, I decided to go ahead and sell it, retire, and then decided that in 2005 that I would come back into business, but this time as a coach. So that's what I'm doing, and that's my story.
Okay, and I think you mentioned to me before that was almost a life transformational moment to you, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it really was. Entrepreneurship was the one thing that I struggled with. Not because I didn't have success. The problem I had was I actually had some successes, and literally that was my stumbling block. When I wanted to launch one business, that was the business that I struggled, and I started doubting if I really was an entrepreneur, doubting the fact that I knew how to grow a business, and I struggled in that business for a year, and then finally raised my hand, and it changed everything in my life. So.
Okay. Well, outstanding. I want to hear a lot more about that. Let's move on to Linda. Hi, Linda. I don't
Hi,
know you,
everyone. I love what was just shared, because the irony is I am a business coach and consultant and have been for many years. I actually started my early career in my teens when I was alternately working with very entrepreneurial business and very professionalized companies, namely, you know, the high school, after school jobs and Christmas jobs working for McDonald's and so on. But I kept seeing this crossover between the entrepreneurial world, where people had a passion for what they were working on but didn't have systems or processes or business thinking, and people in the highly professionalized world where everybody got very compartmentalized and just saw everything they were doing as what their job was. And so for many years, as I was working, as I was running businesses, I kept knowing that there was this crossover between the two. And I had several different roles in big consulting, working for as an internal consultant for Avon, for one of the Disney business units, and so on. But what I found, that even if I was in a very innovative company, the mentality of the people there was they could still think about things for 6 or 18 months before making decisions. And I just hit the point where I couldn't stand that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, people in regular corporations, you can space out for a long
Your salary doesn't change.
It doesn't change. I saw something really crude, a little cartoon, and I was chicken to post it. But it was something about, I shouldn't even say this, being recorded. It was something about I get paid to poop. And it was like, you know, it was some corporate person that was just mocking his own business. But that's what we got to think about. You know, we as entrepreneurs, we got overhead on everything that we don't get paid for. And they get paid to poop. So
exactly.
Anyway,
So
sorry for that crudeness.
No. I love it, because the truth is, you know, came the day for me when I had, well, I won't even go into the long story, but came the day where I just said, I heard it clear as a bell in my head. I work with people who care in their own pocket, can this work better on Tuesday, period. And by definition, that means entrepreneurs and small business owners. So many years ago, I left that corporate environment to start doing independent consulting, to consult with exactly that. So, you know, I work with clients on a one-on-one basis on their business, because what I find is most entrepreneurs, and I love what was just shared before me, was that you started something and you had some success, and that's what happens for entrepreneurs, is passion will carry you to a certain stage, and then you suddenly get stalled out, and it's only because you just ran out of know-how. You don't know the questions to ask or the actions to take to get yourself to the next level and get your business to the next level.
Yeah,
I'm
totally in that boat now, and I want to explore what you just said quite a bit more.
Yeah.
But I want to go and see, Dawn, is your, can we hear you yet?
Yes.
There you go. Go for it, Dawn.
I was in the window, the Google Plus event window, and their natives are getting restless. So you might, if you haven't done the invites yet, you might want to.
What I'd like to do, I'd like you to introduce. Well, go ahead. I'll tell you how.
Okay. I'm a transformational life coach. I've branded myself as the empathic coach. I'm just starting out in the biz. I've been in the spiritual area for a long time. I work with energy, the ability to sense the flow in corporations and between relationships in an individual and what it is their values are. All kinds of stuff like that. It's really cool. I'm not a business coach.
Values are so important.
They are. They're the most important thing.
In fact, I heard Heather say, and it stuck with me, that you should be value-driven. You know, that's that's kind of your core. And,
it's pretty much the coach thing, to be value-driven. Then you know what matters in life.
Yeah, then you know what's important. Yeah. Okay, I want to move on to Soul Power Coach, Adrian. Adrian, welcome back. Could you give us a little spiel on who you are and what you do?
I gotta unmute myself. Hey, Adrian, Soul Power Coach here. I'm just popping in real quick because this is a really interesting topic. I help people who solve other people's problems, and I coach them to be more focused, organized, courageous, consistent, peaceful, loving, and happy.
Well,
So
that sounds like a wonderful, wonderful thing to
Sounds
do.
good.
I'll tell you what. Since we're having a little bit of trouble getting the invitations out, I'm going to dump a loaded question on you guys, and I'm going to go try do some under the hood work and try to get the invitations out. Dawn, for a few minutes at least, you could kind of lead the group. But whoever wants to take this can take it. But the question I want to ask is, what is a business coach? And more specifically, is there a difference between a business coach, a business advisor, and a business mentor? And I know, I know Dawn, for example, is a life coach. I think there's a continuum between life coaching and business coaching. I've always believed you can't separate the business of the entrepreneur from the life of the entrepreneur. I mean, if your life is a mess, it doesn't matter. So, and some people seem to try. So, so why don't we take that? And if you guys could kind of lead yourself for a minute, I want to go see if I can get some invitations out. We're having technical difficulties. So Dawn will lead you for a few minutes, and but anyone can take that question, and I'm gonna go try to get some invitations out. So give me a few minutes.
Yeah, I'll take it from the list that I see. I don't know if you guys see the same thing, but for me, I'm seeing Heather Bond is coming up first. Cool. And you heard the question, what is a business coach?
Okay, is the question what is a business coach, or what is the difference between a business coach consultant?
Let's start with the first one. What is a business coach? I think you're qualified to answer that one really well.
Okay, a business coach is someone who helps individuals move forward in their business, and obviously it depends on the situation and the context of what you're coaching, but it's about helping in terms of leadership, in terms of moving from where they're stuck or why they're needing help, or in terms of growing the business and helping them move forward as a growing entity. And it really depends, because if you get into corporate, then it can be organizational development, so you're getting into much bigger type of business coaching. And it can be, obviously, once you're in corporations, working with individuals within a corporation who may not be performing well, and you might be recruited by the corporation, and obviously that brings a whole different dimensions in, because the client, the person you're talking to, is not the person who's paying you, so there's a massive different set of values and things to sort out before you go there, and agreements and contracts and things. So it is about, for me, it's about the end person, your client, helping them move forward, helping them grow, helping them make the right choices for them and the way they grow their business.
Yes. Is there anybody else? There's Jessica, there's a whole bunch of people on the call. Is anybody feeling especially drawn to explain what a business coach is that might add something on?
You know, I'll throw my 2 cents in, and it's the reason why it's the number one thing that I get asked. So here's what I like to say, is there are 3 people in this space. We have consultants, coaches, and mentors. And what I usually like to say is that a consultant is
you're answering the second question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to just do all 3 of them.
That's a good way to that's a good way to answer it.
But a consultant is ones where we work together. A coach is, I'm going to help you see the work that you need to do, and then a mentor is, I'll help you see what I know will work. So it's kind of about who's going to be doing the work. Shared work, you doing the work, or help with what has worked. So that's kind of where I break it out, so that people can kind of see when I say that I'm helping as a coach, you're going to be doing the work. And I agree that as a coach, my job as a coach is helping you attain achievable goals, which we also define as success. So
nice.
Well, thank you.
How about anyone else? Business coach, definition. And Heather, if you'd like to come in with your what's the difference between a mentor, an advisor, and a coach, feel free. I think this would be a good point.
Okay. This is a really interesting one for me, because I've worked with organizations around coaching and mentoring and trying to define the difference. And some organizations have the definition that I'd give for coaching in their mentoring. So it's quite an interesting one. And as I say, I'm now working with the IIC and M, so they've just added mentoring onto their coaching. Mentoring within a lot of organizations, especially in the UK and associations, is about working with someone so that they grow as fast as possible within the organization to be able to be in a leadership role. Now, this can get crossed over with coaching, especially in the business environment, because when I trained as a coach and as a personal coach, one of the things, pure coaching is about allowing people to come up with their own solutions without leading them in any way, asking very clean questions. In business, that's not always possible because you want people to succeed, and if they don't have the facts and figures, sometimes you have to actually say, look, I'm going to step away from my coaching hat and give you some information about what you can do to move forward. So this is, advice, basically. And a mentor is usually someone who's gone through the role, gone through the growth, and will help you go through it. And I think mentors can be coaches, but again, it usually is about someone shadowing and learning from a mentor, so they grow from a learning experience rather than coming up with their own solutions.
So a mentor would have apprentices, basically?
People that they are being a mentor to.
Yeah.
I think one of the really important things that Heather was just pointing out is that in the mentor role, one of the ways you can think about it is it's somebody who's been in your shoes before, so that you can literally look at them and ask extremely practical questions. If I'm walking into the following kind of meeting and these are the political waves that are going on, is there a best way for me to shape my questions, my participation in that meeting? Are there landmines inside this organization that I need to be aware of, and so on? So that mentor has literally walked that path and is more senior than you, and so they're speaking from that very direct experience perspective in helping you understand. They're literally growing you up, very rapid fire. Now, what you do with the information that a mentor shares with you is up to you, but very often the information you're getting from a mentor is extremely customized per the questions you're asking that mentor. They're not going to go out and open doors for you or anything else. Their dedication as a mentor is to helping you learn from what they've learned by being there before you, and it could have been 5 years before you or 40 years before you, and so on. Whereas that consultant role and coaching role is, I'm standing back independent with a wealth of experience, and let me help you see what you're not either seeing yet or you don't yet know, so that I'm transferring skills, or I'm helping you shape your thinking, or I'm helping you literally concretely design a particular plan of action. And for me, it's a bit of a sliding scale. I love what Heather shared. I think it's really important for people to understand when you go through coaching training, there's a huge emphasis on tell nothing, ask questions, so the person you're working with uncovers their inner wisdom. Because I've run businesses, I don't work that way with my clients and my students in the Breakthrough Academy. The way I work is I know a lot from working in lots of companies, lots of industries, lots of cultures with lots of businesses in lots of stages. Now, as a consultant, I can help unpeel what's got you confused, and I use a coaching style of integrating a lot of questions so that I create pauses where the other person is thinking, and then I'm answering with practical examples, ideas, and so on. So for me, it's a marriage of the two. Because
kind of a blended coaching approach?
It's very much, and I have people who are continuously trying to label me for what I do, and I say, I do both consulting with coaching as part of my style, and I will, in the middle of a conversation, say, hang on, I'm taking off this hat and I'm putting on that hat, so that I get the person I'm working with to shift how they're paying attention, how they're listening, and the degree to which they're holding themselves accountable for participating in thinking something through, in taking accountability for what their own next steps are from the information or the ideas, and so on.
Linda, you just made so many good points. Oh, and I did. I should have gotten all the invitations out now, but we appear to be full. So if you can't come in, you can try again if somebody drops out. But you can listen in. maybe, Dawn, you could still kind of keep an eye on the chat, and if somebody asks a question for the people here, you could let us know. But
hi, Rob. I'm actually just going to have to drop out now. Sorry, I'm a bit restricted on time because
no, that's fine. Heather, thanks so much for joining us from the UK. I know it's late there. I really appreciate you joining us, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you.
You
Bye.
have a great day. Excuse me, Linda. I think I said the wrong name before. Linda just brought up just a ton of good points, and I'm not sure which one to bring up first. But which one should I bring? Well, one thing I would like to know, because Linda was talking about, well, I've got years of expertise and stuff, and I'm sure she does. I'm sure a lot of people do. But I'm kind of curious if you think peer coaching is possible. I made a half-joking, well, I saw a post a long time ago, a blog post, by a guy who was not successful in business, at least at the time he wasn't, he is now. And he said people kept asking him for business advice, and he couldn't understand why, because he was not a success. And then from that blog post, I made a kind of a joking post on Google+. It's, can you be a business advisor if you suck? and
Rob,
I don't think you can, but I think you can a little bit. And here, go ahead.
I have to share with you that there's a long-time joke in the consulting world about what's the value of a consultant. A consultant is the person you pay to tell you the time, so they ask you for your watch, so you give it to them off your wrist so they can look at it and tell you what time it is.
Well, kind of, but the point I was making is, if you've crossed a landmine field and you've blown up everyone and you're just wounded severely, you might not be able to give that person great advice on where they should go, but you can tell them how to avoid the landmines. You just
exactly.
So it's not totally worthless. And the other side of that was just a point I want to make. Somebody can weigh in either now or later. And the other thing I want to mention is something I see as a problem in the profession, and I haven't heard it here, but I have seen it other places. And that is the one-size-fits-all approach. Mm-hmm. And it seems to be especially prevalent among really successful people, where they kind of think, well, I've been successful, and therefore all somebody has to do is follow in my footsteps, and they will be successful also. I don't think that works.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it's a really bad strategy. I remember on the Entrepreneurs Forum, we were talking about coaching, and somebody started giving me all sorts of advice, and this was a high-level guy who's been immensely successful, and it was like totally irrelevant to me. He told me stuff like I should get more involved in social media. Well, yeah, like that's a problem with me. I'm not doing enough. That's spending enough time. Stuff like that. Well, what do you think? Do you guys see that as a problem, or do you ever fall into that trap yourself, where you think, I did this and it worked for me, therefore, I mean, you can't step in the same river twice.
As a coach, the cardinal rule is do not give advice as a coach. Blended coaching with consulting and mentoring and such, that's a little different. But coach, cardinal rule, ICF rules, and everything else, don't give advice. Ask questions and listen.
Well, I'm not sure if I agree with that. That might, since you're on the life coaching end of the spectrum, that might make more sense. And that's like psychotherapists or psychologists or something. But I would want advice. I mean, I think there's a continuum between the pure life coaching and the hard-headed business. But let me hear I'm not an expert in this, so I'd like to hear other thoughts on that.
Well, I'll throw my 2 cents in here, Rob. One of the things that, for me, is most important, and I work in 2 areas. I work in the coaching and the mentoring. And the very first thing that I work on is having my clients define the goal. And when a client defines the goal, then I know the work I can do. Obviously, I've got some background noise. Hope that's not picking up. Little sirens. Don't worry, it's not me. I didn't set myself on fire, and the pirates haven't showed up yet. But that is really at the crux of this, and that is having your client define what success or what goals they want to work on. That's going to help me to determine if I'm going to take on the role of a coach or as a mentor. So my first question always is define what it is.
Well, that brings up a question I have.
Sure.
So my question is, with the 3 types that are out there, if I'm even considering this, which I am, and I'm asked, what are the top questions that would come out of my mouth if I'm interested in a coach, or if I'm interested in a mentor, or if I need a consultant? Help me out to further, because I was making some notes, and it's great to have the definitions, but if I'm practical and hands-on, when I'm thinking about my business and I'm thinking about what's next, what are the questions that I'm asking, and so I know where to go look?
You know, and that's exactly what we're talking about here. And as you've defined your goal, so let's just talk about an aspect of maybe one of your goals, Jessica, and say it would be, I don't know what stage you are in your business, maybe it's just marketing, and you're wanting to actually then start using social media platforms. You might look for a consultant. A consultant already has what we call channel success. And what they're able to do then is, if that's your goal to market on social media, then a consultant would help you, what we call give you channel success, could work alongside you and develop the strategy, so on and so forth. So that would be very tactical, and a consultant would work alongside of you.
Okay.
If you're struggling in business, and at this point in your business, you're not been able to either get it launched, or you're struggling at some point, then it's very possible that a coach might come in and say, okay, let's take a look at what you're doing. What are your goals? What are you doing? What is it that we need to have you work on to have you have that success?
You know, since we're talking a little bit randomly here, Kenneth just brought up goal setting. And that's obviously critically important to coaching, even though I don't know that much about coaching. I've been recently rereading some Brian Tracy books, and I imagine most of you know him. I think he's here in San Diego. He's a world-famous business coach, and he is so big on goal setting. And he makes the point that people that write down their goals, even if you just write them down and put them in a drawer, you're supposed to be like 90% more likely than the rest, or more than the rest of the population to make things happen. It hasn't really worked with me. I write them down, I look at them, I think about them. So why don't we get some thoughts on goal setting and how to make that work? Because that's kind of a key.
I'll just give you my 2 cents real quick, Rob, and then everybody else can talk. And that is, I'll give you the secret of attaining achievable results, and it's just 2 words: commitment and accountability. And that's what a coach does. He works with you on your commitment and then holds you accountable. Those 2 things are really at the core of people being successful. And you talk about writing it down, that's the accountability part of it, and that's what helps us achieve goals faster. So really, that is the work of a coach.
Yeah. Here, I want to mention something politically that I've talked about a lot. There are a stunning number of solopreneurs in the United States and probably the world, and that is people just working by themselves. I think it's both a problem and an opportunity. We're just too independent-minded. We've let our strengths become our weaknesses. We're not working together enough. And, you know, a lot of people are now talking about accountability partners, where you just, you know, and that's back, you know, is peer coaching possible? So that might be, you know, you're right. That's an important angle. Other thoughts on that or on goal setting from other people?
I'll say something. You know, it's interesting that I end up working with a lot of people who are setting goals, but they're not necessarily purposeful goals. So what I work with people is to say, these goals are meaningful for me. These goals are what I'm really supposed to be working on, not what somebody else gave me. These are the choices that really work for me. Because I often find people are working feverishly towards the wrong goals. The other part about that is, as far as the peer-to-peer working together, yes, you can have accountability partners. You know, yes, you can have goal setting. Yes, you can do that with other people. But you've got to be very careful that people are in different stages. And so you may be running while someone else is walking, and if the 2 of you are trying to be accountability partners, you know, one may be slowing the other person down. I particularly, I have at various times have had accountability partners where I've mapped out my goals and said, this is what I'm going to do, and we touch base with each other and say, this is how we're, doing. My issue, the reason why I'm here today is because I work with people in how they make decisions, how they're structuring their life and stuff like that. People are starting to come to me saying, I see how you're marketing, I see how you're finding clients, will you tell me how you do that? And I'm like, I don't want to be, that's not who I am as a coach. I want to be good at what I do, and the other stuff, I want to send to someone else. So when I'm thinking about being a business coach, I'm thinking there are 3 problems that business coaches, it's not so much what they do with people, but the problems they're trying to solve. And the first one are the startup companies, or the people who are still in this issue of, I need more work, I need more clients, I need to define who I am. And then the people who have done that so well that they're overwhelmed with work, and they are working, they've created just a headache out of too much work. How do I do this smart? How do I create systems? How do I do all of this? And then there are the people that have conquered all of that and are like, okay, now what is the legacy I want to leave behind? How do I want to grow this? How do I want to expand? And I'm really having trouble finding people who are committed to and talented with working with that first group of people. How do I get started? What do I call myself? How do I make these decisions? And it's not so much, as everyone has said, telling other people what to do, but really listening to what they're talking about and what they're dreaming about, and helping them make those decisions about what works best for them. So it's not generic advice, and you're working with someone. That's
Adrienne, I love these distinctions that you just made between those stages and the question you're posing to this group, which is who's working with that first stage. Because one of the challenges is, on the coach side of it, how do you make it economically a viable business to work with people in that stage? It's very hard to work with that tier of people solo. It's, if you as a coach want to have a lucrative business, which everyone is deserving of creating, then to be working with people who are in that vague a stage, as a coach, you almost have to, by definition, do group coaching, because people take different time to work through finding their answers to those questions and moving along, and they're not going to invest a great deal of money when they're in that stage, because it's not therapy. It's about designing, imagining, visioning, and goal setting for yourself what you want to step into. And it's very hard for people to feel an economic investment they want to make when it all still feels very vague to them. It's one of the challenges of people figuring out who's their ideal prospective student or coachee, sure, mentor, client, and so on.
Okay,
that's kind of the challenge I'm finding, because what I do is help people get crystal clear on their purpose, and then they're like, out of that, this is the business that I want to create, in that particular life area. Right. But then I need someone who will then pick up the baton at that point with them and say, okay, now that you understand who you are and what you want to do, how do we begin making that happen? And I'm having trouble finding that person.
But they exist. Those people exist.
Right.
And they.
Well, and I had a business coach, but she's particularly expensive, and she does the group coaching.
Well, the advantage of internet marketing land is it's a research exercise for you to go out and find who is doing group coaching for newbies or whatever language they're using, and for you to then build an integrated relationship with them, because you know what you love. So as you're working with people, you can then create this integrated relationship where people are handed off from your work and your program into theirs and so on.
Yeah, I'd recommend Karen Capello. I think you'd like her. She does group coaching.
Say that
Karen
one.
Capello.
Karen
Capello. Cappello.
Okay.
She has a spiritual edge as well.
I want to jump in here, and I want to. I'm
Sure.
sorry for interrupting people.
No.
A bunch of really important points were just made. What Linda was saying, first of all, I love the idea of group coaching. I think I think that's neat, and I want to explore that. But what Linda was saying was a little bit from the coach's perspective, and it's kind of the Willie Sutton, the bank robber Willie Sutton problem. Why do you go after why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is.
Mhm.
Why do you go after the more successful people? Because they pay you, and once, you know, you guys got to eat.
And Rob, I want to build on that. It's not necessarily the more successful people, it's the people who value and will invest in getting help. And you brought up such an important point before. You just brought up a really important point before, which is in America we are laden with solopreneurs. And I've said only partially jokingly for about the last decade, we live in a cowboy culture. There's a lot of people out there who really value being able to meet with their buddies on the golf course, you know, get off the horse and say, I just came in from the back 40 and it was really tough in business. They value the cowboy with the spurs on who's been out wrestling what's happening out there on the prairie. They don't actually want a business that works smoothly and easily. So we're talking already about who's coachable and who you can consult to. It's the person who actually, for whatever reason, really believes they deserve to create themselves and their business at the next level where it's allowed to be easier than they're overwhelmed, they're overworked, whatever their challenges are they're facing in business, that they're solvable and they're allowed to get them solved and they want to get them solved.
You know, I want to come back to this point, but I want to do some quick introductions because I don't like having people in the hangout without being introduced. James Fleece, why don't you say hi? I know you and I have met before. You're in Canada, I believe, Vancouver. And you tell us a little bit about what you're up to.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah. Yes. You're not.
I'm in SoCal. I'm Jim Fierce. I'm in.
Oh, I wasn't even close. Why did I think that? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, that was Tim Southern.
I think I don't know why I was confusing you guys, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So, I'm here in Southern California. I'm just soaking up all the goodness in this particular hangout, the good info. There are a couple of you that I'd actually like to connect with afterwards because I'm considering maybe making coaching or consulting a part of what I'm going to do going forward in the future. So I'm just here to soak up all the good information and make a few connections.
Okay, wonderful. And Nathaniel, hi again, Nathaniel.
I'm good. Sorry, my mic was muted there. Oh, am I supposed to introduce? Yeah.
Introduce yourself, tell us what you do. I mean, you're sort of a business coach in some ways, aren't you?
A lot of points were being made. So, yeah, I don't really consider myself a coach in the sense of, you know, coaching and mentoring, but I would maybe consider myself more of a troubleshooter because I don't do like one-on-one consulting where people pay me to actually help them. It's more of like I kind of wait for them to have an issue, and then when the issue comes up, then I try to solve it as best as possible. And
well, awesome. I'm glad you could join us again. You know, so many good points have been made, and everyone I would address kind of goes down a different path here, so I'm not sure what to do. Why don't somebody help me out to give me, because I want to talk about coaching, I want to talk about the solopreneur problem. I want to talk about all this stuff.
Well, and I think, Rob, I think that you hit something on the head here, and that is that what you're looking for anytime you're looking for a coach, consultant, or mentor is figuring out who they serve. One of the things that I heard was, you know, who helps the startups, and one of the things that if you follow me and you know I talk about on a regular basis is that the reason why I call myself a micro entrepreneur specialist is because I serve entrepreneurs who are at startup to 5 years that have 1 to 5 employees, and that's the criteria. Those are the clients I serve, and the criteria which I serve is that those that went ahead and decided to jump into this entrepreneurial pool usually find themselves in 1 or 2 places. They jumped into the deep end and they're going down fast. And if they raise their hand, I'll help as much as I possibly can. Or the others that have jumped into the shallow end and have never been able to launch out into the deep blue sea. And those 2 struggles, those 2 mindsets that keep people going under or staying at the shoreline are those that I help. And I do that privately, one-on-one.
You just said 1 to 5 employees. Once you have 1 employee, you've kind of made it. I mean, you're at least doing
Well,
okay.
I'll tell you why. I spent a lot of time working with Ken Blanchard and his organization, and as a executive coach, working more at the organizational level. Every time in business you add more employees, you add a different dimension to your business. And if you haven't figured out yet how business works, what you're going to do is you're going to increase the amount of frustration, pain, and agony, not only for yourself, but for your customers and your employees. And there's a mindset shift that has to happen. And those are the reasons why I say 1 to 5, because what we know happens in business is that as you start adding employees, the dynamics of your business changes rapidly, and a lot of times just overnight. And you got to be able to know how to manage those changes to be successful.
Okay, I'd like to introduce or have Chris. My screen is bad. Is it Clother? Chris, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's actually Cloutier, Christopher Cloutier.
I wasn't even close. Why don't you introduce yourself briefly, and if you have any comments you made on what you've heard here so far?
I'm Chris. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, born and raised, and I do a lot of I'm trying to get more into affiliate marketing, but that's kind of where I started at. I actually know Nathaniel from another place we hang out at a lot. We do hangouts together, and besides that, I do a lot of local SEO stuff. And so one thing I noticed, and I didn't really catch the first question, but while I've been offering these local SEO services, I found out that more and more people I talk to, they don't necessarily need like SEO or this or that. What they really need is a coach. So,
yeah, you know what's happening to me, because I've got a little content management practice, and that's not a super lucrative thing, right? Writers don't get paid very much. But what's happening is people are using me for business strategy instead, which would probably pay a lot more. And because maybe I'm doing it, I see little things wrong, but yeah, people need this. This kind of dovetails into a little bit of what Linda was saying and a few other people have been saying. I would like to see if there's a way to get coaching services out to more people. I have this group, I'm not going to go into it a lot here, it's called the Virtual Brain Trust Cooperative, and the idea was that everybody would have their own little team, and that we would do this per peers. And it actually was modeled, and this sounds a little bit terrible, but it was modeled after a cell structure, which is the same organizational structures that terrorist organizations use. It was actually started by the French resistance in World War II, used very effectively against us. And I had a little bit of an epiphany. I thought, why can't this same structure be used as a force of good instead of a force of evil? So if we all form little teams, each team dedicated to the success of an individual, and then of course anybody on one team could be on another team that's dedicated to the success of an individual. Brilliant concept, much more difficult to do in practice than in reality. I had a team, I got a lot done. I had somebody acting in the role of a business coach anyway, giving great advice. But I would love to get something going. I would love to explore more the group coaching. I would like to see if there's pro bono. See what you guys think about doing some pro bono work. I have some thoughts about that. So I'm going to open up the floor again, because I could just ramble on forever. So why don't somebody just weigh in?
This is Linda.
Linda, could you mute your microphone, please?
I'm well. How are you?
Linda, I'm going to mute you. Excuse me. I find you. Can somebody weigh in on that?
I think that's a great idea. It would take some kind of a central organization to set it up, and I think that's a great idea too.
Well, I'll send everybody a link to. There's a private community on Google Plus called Virtual Brain Trust. I'll send everybody a link. I do also have a business idea. I'm just going to throw out there, and I'm sorry if I'm being a little random, a little scattered today. But an associate of mine who was acting in the role of a business coach, we have a special offers section on the entrepreneurs thing, and she did some special offer where she was going to give some coaching services for, I forget what it was, something a little bit over 100, not much more, and she was given an hour. What I think would be, for a money deal, where you wouldn't make a lot of money, but you'd make some, would be to offer a $100 special and say you'll give 3 sessions of a half hour each, a week apart, for somebody. And that would allow somebody without a lot of money to maybe get some coaching services. And that week apart, that you give them a half hour, that allows you to think about them, what they're doing, gets a little bit of the accountability part some of you guys were talking about earlier, and would not be a profit-making thing, but kind of be a loss thing for you, but would give your get your name out there. And I'd also like to see some pure pro bono work on the part of coaches. If we can help you select the worthy people, from the entrepreneurs community or the Virtual Brain Trust, we'd help that. So anyway, that's just a spiel, kind of unrelated. Somebody else jump in with
Rob,
whatever.
Just clarification, are you talking about like a mastermind group for entrepreneurs that have some subject matter experts like business coaches and life coaches and stuff on tap?
Adrian, here's the difference between a mastermind and what I'm talking about. At least as I understand what a mastermind does, it's a group of people that just get together and cooperate for their collective good interests. The difference between what the Virtual Brain Trust has proposed and had some limited success at, it hasn't totally bombed. Teams have formed, successful things have happened. The difference is that each team that forms is totally dedicated to the success of an individual. So example, if we formed a team for you, it would be private and confidential, just like cells are. Just as the cell structure is. There would probably be one person who's not you, who's responsible for communication to the outside world. But the key is, it would be dedicated to your success. People in that group, and it would be a private group, we can use communities for that, it works fine, would be like, we want to help her however we can, with her business, with her life. We're totally dedicated to your success. And then you, of course, could be on another team that's totally dedicated to someone else's success.
Is there a time frame around that, Rob? Because here's what I find is I love that idea. It's just when there's no end date, things tend to fizzle. So if there were 6-month commitments or 1-year commitments to that, then everybody knows what they're committing to for that success. And if you reband or regroup at those intervals, it might have a little bit of longevity, but you may also have already incorporated that into your thing. Because
if you do a search on Virtual Brain Trust on Google, you find volumes of material that I've written about it, and a few other people have written about it. But you just raised a good point, because if you did form a team, nobody wants a lifetime commitment on anything these days, right? So I did talk about let's have trial teams and that kind of thing. But again, I'm not here to hog this forum with that idea. It does relate to business coaching a little bit. I would like to get the business coaches, excuse me, together with the entrepreneurs and see if we can get some synergy, see if we can get some business for you guys. I mean, paying customers, see if you can help some worthy people that need it. So I do with my limited resources, I do what I could to help with that. But so many good points have been raised here. I don't know completely where to go with it. So anybody, any topic, anything anyone wants.
Well, I'd take this moment to say it sounds like an interesting idea, and I'd be interested to talk more about what it looks like and how to set that up. And I gotta run, so.
Okay. Adrian, thanks so much for joining us.
All right, bye.
We'll be seeing you again, I'm sure. Dawn, we haven't heard you weigh in a while. Why don't you tell us what you think about life, the universe, and everything?
It's 42. End of story.
You got to be longer than that.
Get my geek cred going on. This is good. I've just kind of been here to listen, to see what's going on with what the business coaches are doing, and that's about it. Yeah.
Okay. Jessica, we haven't heard from you for a while. Why don't you tell us your opinion on the state of affairs?
No, who did you say?
You, Jessica.
Me. Fabulous. The state of affairs in the world of Jessica, which I know everybody revolves around me, so thank you all for being here today. No, I'm just totally kidding. Actually, every time I come to one of these, I learn something new. And I've had some consultations with a couple of coaches recently, and it's really interesting to find that the more I talk to them, where the synergy is and where the synergy really isn't, and how that actually plays a really big role in, I think, choosing a coach. And that's not something we really talked about today, because if you have one person or a team dedicated to me, for example, if I'm looking for a coach and that person is dedicated to me, man, I hope that we clash just enough to get that fuel going to make progress.
Yeah,
but
you don't want somebody that just agrees with you on everything.
No.
I just learned that. But you did raise an issue we should have covered here. I think, we're coming close to an hour here.
Yeah.
We're 55 minutes. I definitely don't want these to go over an hour. But we didn't talk about how you choose coaches. Does anybody have any quick thoughts on that? Kenneth, can you still hear us? Are you out?
Oh, yeah. I'm still here. I just make sure I mute myself.
Okay, how do you choose a coach? Can somebody weigh in?
How do you choose a coach?
How do you find a coach? You have to find it.
You have to find them.
Obviously, what you want to make sure is, and one of the things that, it's back to the same old anything we do in business, and that is we want to make sure that they're established. They've been doing this for a period of time, and also that there are some testimonials. For me, that's huge. A lot of people jump into the space because they have what we call channel success. They've got success at something, and now they label themselves as a coach. I can tell you who I help and how I help, and I can also show you the people that I have helped. Those are the questions you want to ask, and that is
more pragmatic than that. Is there a central? And probably not, but is there one website or community that's better than others where you'd go to look, or?
There isn't any actual, kind of like doctors and psychiatrists, they have to be regulated. They have to have their certification, or not even certification, but doctorate or whatever it is. They have to be licensed. Coaches don't need to be licensed, but you can be credentialed and certified by bodies out there, and ICF is the one I'm going with, International Coach Federation.
So you definitely I agree with that. I mean, there's a lot of associations. There's no regulation in this field, so which is, I mean, good from the standpoint we don't need government involved in everything. All they do is tax it anyways. So associations, what are you looking for? I'm certified across many fields, and all the way from Ken Blanchard's association and certification to Michael Gerber. So I help literally the clients I serve that are struggling with exactly where they are and where they want to go. And it's normally just, and if you look at that video that I posted in the actual event where Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google, talks about, it's usually just a perspective. And he talks about that in that 40-second video that I posted. And what most people do need is that help with perspective. And I can tell you this, what we'd like to say is truth is discovered and purpose is revealed, meaning that as you work with a coach, you're going to have that aha moment, and you're going to sit back and go, this is it, I get it now, I get it. And that's what your coach is wanting you to do versus a mentor or a consultant. So those ahas will literally change your life and your business life. And those are the things that happen to me, and those are the things that I work on with my clients.
Okay, outstanding. I could use an aha moment right now.
I know. Where's my light bulb?
Yeah, I could use some brilliant idea that would just solve everything just like that. Boy, that would be nice right now. I like that. What was that movie where the guy took a pill and he became a genius? What was that?
Well, that's actually a great movie. And I actually am working with Michael Gerber with that. I don't know if you've probably seen, I did some posting that Michael Gerber is the author of E-Myth. He's known as the #1 New York Times bestselling author, the guru to America on entrepreneurship. And I just finished working with him on a program. It's a actual 12-week program on awakening entrepreneurs, those that have been called to be an entrepreneur and don't know how to start and where to take those steps. we're working right now on starting a program with him doing that. So there's a lot of great stuff out there.
Just again, politically, you say people that have been called to be entrepreneurs, they're driven by it. It's true, a lot of people are, but there are also involuntary entrepreneurs. There's not too many regular corporate jobs left out there, especially for certain classes of people. And, being an involuntary entrepreneur does not necessarily mean you're not passionate about what you do. So that's just a quick...
Yeah, I'm in that boat myself.
Yeah.
I love being a coach. I love coaching, but this whole business thing, having to learn it all from scratch and started at... I'm the beginning. I haven't even finished graduating yet. But I'm pretty awesome coach.
And I'll just real quick say that.
You're muted.
There we go.
Or I lost sound.
Oh, sorry.
That was me.
Well, the big thing is that what happens is for most people is that they find something they're really passionate. Like, oh my God, I could do this the rest of my life. And if you ever read any of Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, he talks about the movement in cash quadrants. And what he says is this. If you found something you're passionate about and you really want to do this for the rest of your life and you take that step out, really what you become is self-employed. And for you then to do that work, you're no longer just doing the work of that which you're passionate about. Now you have the responsibility of the work of marketing, accounting, I mean, lead source. I mean, we can go on and on. And that's where...
Guy, not the 6 hats, but what's that other one? It talks about the different role. The E-Myth Revisited, isn't that?
E-Myth Revisited, Michael Gerber. He talks about the hats you have to wear in business, and he breaks it down to 3. So, and that's a big struggle, and that's why I work one-on-one with clients. I don't do any coaching clients. Group clients. I just do one-on-one because I know that I can help my clients achieve faster results, having them committed and accountable to the work that we're doing in a way that can literally help them shift from just being a micro to a full-blown entrepreneur.
Yeah, and that does bring back the solo entrepreneur problem because, with the E-Myth Revisited, the different hats you have to wear, there's not enough time as one person. Yeah. We're not going to have time to go into that. And
right.
I want to say, Linda, are you still with us? I muted you for a while and your video disappeared. Linda, I guess maybe not. Hope she doesn't get mad at me. Guys, we're, I think, a little bit over an hour now, so I do have to bring this to a close. Any quick parting shots? Anything anybody has to say real quick before I...
Well, I'll say something. I don't work with pirates. I know it's International Pirate Day. I know that we're all supposed to be speaking pirate language, but the truth is, I don't work with pirates.
We'll speak pirate for the rest of it. I have to close now, but I want to say that more than any hangout I've done, I think, this is one of the most important ones, and I think I opened a lot more questions than I closed in this one. And I know I'm going to rewatch this video probably later tonight, and I was like, oh, God, I was so scattered. But we just broached a bunch of important issues, and I don't even think we really scratched the surface on this important topic. So we have to do something again. I'm really interested in working with coaches, getting something together with coaches and entrepreneurs for mutual benefit. I want to explore that group coaching idea a little bit more, see if we can get something going there. So if there's a way I can help, way I can participate, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, I've been certified as a group coach through Karen Capello's program. Just putting that out there in case you're interested in information about it.
Awesome. No, stuff like that would be wonderful. And we'd have to figure out how it would work and what we would do. But I think it would be great to get something like that going. So anyway, I'd like to thank you all, and anybody watching this video, if you could not make it in, I am sorry. We're trying to organize these the best we can. We had a few technical glitches this time. This has been the Let's Talk About series that's sponsored by the Entrepreneur, Self-Employed, and Small Business Community on Google+. We're going to try to do these once a week. We're going to try to get to have more informal hangouts like the coffee breaks as well. Get some things going, get some business going for us, and do what we can do. So I'd like to thank you all, the people who are in the the group now. I'm going to turn off the recording, but I'll be here for a few minutes so we can kind of have a wind down chat. But everybody out there watching, I'd like to thank you. And you know,
it looks like Linda came back as well.
Yeah, Linda's back. Linda, we're just shutting down. Do you have any parting shots?
And you're muted, Linda.
Let me unmute you.
This is the hilariousness of being a consultant and coach, which is I had an urgent call from a client who literally was down to the wire and needed my brain on something. So,
well, you gave us some great insights during this hangout. We really appreciate it. As I said, I'm going to end the broadcast now, but I'm going to stay in this hangout for a while so we can all just have a wind down chat for a minute or two. So thank you everybody who's watching, and we're going to do this again real soon.